Welcome to Toffee TV. It's the Daily Live Extra. Obviously, we start with the news that it seems Dominic Calvert-Lewin has an injury, and he will miss Saturday's game against Chelsea, and maybe a few more on top of that. Maybe waiting for obviously the club to confirm the details. Well, to confirm the injury, but to confirm the details of it and how severe it is. But it's like proper Everton, isn't it? This is proper Everton. If it could happen, it does happen.
Yeah. It's the biggest fear, isn't it? Once Richarlison went up the door, the biggest fear was if something happened to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If he stays fit, I think we're fine. He's injured, and we've got to rethink it now. Obviously, Everton will be looking for another forward. We know that, but how quickly that gets done remains to be seen. If the one he wants is plays for Chelsea, then that might go right to the wire, as in towards September. So it's not good news, put it that way. And obviously Frank Lampard has got to come up with something different now than what they will have been planning yesterday morning, obviously.
Yeah, because obviously, certainly for Saturday, there's no Rondon. I don't know how much of a big blow that is.
It's not a blow.
But the next one is Delhi, isn't it?
That's Delhi, yeah.
And then they're just not the same kind of players. Delhi's not really a striker. He's an 8-10. You know, we have seen him used. Certainly on Friday night he came on and he come on as a striker, but he's not the same player. He's someone who likes to drop in. You're not going to be able to smack the ball up to him and him to take it on his chest or flick it on and that kind of thing. So it does change the way we want to play, doesn't it?
It does, but I thought against Blackpool he went up as well, didn't he? Don't forget. And got on the end of, certainly for his second goal. First goal he was playing in midfield, but the second goal he was up front and got on the end of that, and he did well. He linked the play very well actually against Kiev. In fact, Everton arguably played better football when he was up front. That's not been me, but not saying that's rather have done, of course I would. So at least we've got someone who can go into that. But he's not a specialist forward, like you say. He's a midfield player who arrives in the box late. So it is a headache for Frank Lampard, but it is what it is, isn't it? We've had Dominic Calvert-Lewin's had obviously a horrible 12 months of injuries. This time last year he was nursing a broken toe starting the season. Then he had obviously the trouble with the quad, and he's come back and he's been getting himself ready to go, and this has happened in training yesterday, and it is what it is. You've got to deal with it. It means the club have got to, like you say, focus, sharpen the focus, but I think they will stay on the path they were on, and I think that seems to be someone like Brody.
It is interesting though, isn't it? Because really, before he had the broken toe, he was starting to pick up more injuries. The back end of Carlo Ancelotti's last season, I think he was getting the abductor injury. He seems to be picking up more and more injuries, and I don't listen. I just wonder. We've seen him put on a lot of muscle in the last couple of years, and you just wonder sometimes whether body type, doesn't necessarily suit, the joints and the different aspects of people. We've seen with different players, likes of, Lukaku when he put on all the weight, and I remember when we had Ross Barkley, and it didn't necessarily cause them injuries, but he has seemed to pick up a lot of injuries in the last couple of years. When beforehand, I don't remember him picking up that many injuries. The two things might be related, and it might be a simple fact as he's actually played more games of football, so therefore he's more likely to pick up injuries. But it just seems the kind of injuries he's picking up, I don't know. I know that there can be a link to those two things. If you are a certain kind of player, he does a lot of jumping, doesn't he? Obviously with that kind of thing, maybe that has a big effect on it. And probably a lot of people say, well, if you build up the muscle, actually it's going to help protect certain parts of your body. But he's definitely in the last 2 years, as I said, towards the end of Carlo, he started picking up some injuries as well. He's definitely started becoming a lot more injury prone, and he spoke about his mental health at the end of the season and how that had been affected, and you just worry another injury again, another lengthy spell on the sideline, where he is basically our main striker as well now, or seems to be our main player. How that's going to affect him if it is long term.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a physiotherapist or whatever, so I wouldn't have a clue whether it's because he's put weight. I mean, I remember him, ironically, getting injured 10 minutes into a game against Southampton when he wasn't a regular. He was in with Lukaku, and he started the game really well and went off after 10 minutes with an injury, and then. But he then had a run where he wasn't injured. Then he was available most weeks. Yeah, he did pick the abductor up, but this is, I think the quad injury came from the broken toe.
Yeah.
You drop a couch on your toe, then that's just clumsy, and that's what caused the injury. Well, it is, isn't it?
It shouldn't
be moving couches when you're a professional footballer, so, or at least put bloody steel toe caps on or something. And I think the quad come from trying to nurse that, because when you're playing with an injury, your body manoeuvres to try to take the weight off whatever injury is, and maybe he was running differently to protect the toe, and the quad's gone. This one is a training injury, so it's a different injury, so it could happen at any time. I guess it's just that it seems just right now that we're getting hammered. We have been getting hammered for a while with injuries, and like I've said before, if we didn't have bad luck, we'd have no luck at all, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is that him and Jordan Pickford are probably the two injuries we couldn't cope with.
Yeah.
Everybody else we'd have probably been able to get by with. There's enough players in there, so it's a huge blow for Frank Lampard. It's a huge blow for Everton. There's no doubt about it. And we've got it could be worse. The window could be shut, and we're going with what we've got. So at least it'll. And Everton wanted the forward anyway, but at least it does magnify that now. But what did he do? Did he now change course because they need Dom, or did he stay on what they'd agreed on? That's the big thing. That's the thing, I think, for Kevin Thelwell and for Frank Lampard to decide. Did he go and just grab someone for the sake of it, or did he follow the path that they decided on?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of debate and a lot of. I'm sure there'll be anger amongst the fan base of why we don't already have a forward in a centre forward, and I'm seeing things about Ellis Sims. If Ellis Sims was good enough for Everton, he wouldn't have been loaned out to Sunderland. Let's get it right. If they thought he was good enough, now there's a difference between if he is good enough, we don't know, but their opinion is that they don't think he's good enough. So what can you say? But people again, they're going to be angry because, like you just said there, Dominic Calvert-Lewin getting injured at any stage, whether it's before the first game or whether whatever, that's a hammer blow to us, because the next person in line is Rondon. You've already sold the guy who came in and done the job at the end of the season brilliantly. And again, Everton just looks stupid as far as I'm concerned. Whether you trust the judgment of them, and whether you trust the plan to bring in the replacement, and obviously that's certainly a second striker, which is going to take longer. From the outside, they just look stupid because they've sold the player for £60 million and haven't replaced them before the beginning of the season. When you've got a striker who missed most of last season, and that's the people are just going to have more doubts about the people making the decisions listen, we know what they've been trying to do. We know what they've been trying to bring a striker in, but it does make them, certainly going to that first game, it does make them look a little bit silly, a little bit small time, that it hasn't been sorted out. It wasn't maybe their first priority.
Yeah, but again, it comes back to the way the club's being run, doesn't it? In an ideal world with more room in the budget, I'm quite sure they'd have addressed that thing immediately, the Richarlison thing immediately. Trying to spread the costs of stuff so that you can bring in players. It's a difficult one because the strikers, I'm seeing other, some of top clubs. I was at something yesterday for Sky and City and Liverpool, and they're talking about like their options up front, and like 6 players who are top class, and then United have got bemoaning the fact they've got 5 and they want to get rid of Ronaldo, and you're looking, Spurs have got 5 who can all play up there. I know they're not Harry Kane level, but they can all do a job. And then you look at Everton, and I know we're not in that bracket anyway, and I'm not saying we should be, but we're at the other end of the scale where we've got 1. Because Rondon, with all the best will in the world, is a 10-minute footballer at the end of a game.
Exactly.
Isn't he? For me, he's not a viable prospect to replace.
Surely, you just mentioned there, you talk about Man City, it's about Liverpool, those two. You understand why they have 5 or 6, because they're going to be fighting for every competition. Then you'll have a Man United who will have 4 or 5. They are in Europe, and then you'll start to go further and further down. But the idea that Everton haven't got 3 strikers, to me, is mental. Like, we're talking about okay, Rondon is a 3rd choice striker at best. So it's crazy that we are already going into the season without having another striker. Now, and what we're doing is we're doing that thing that we did with Richarlison, where we're going, well, you play in that position, but you can play in that position. So we're doing that to Delhi. And it's like, they're not like for like, they're different kinds of strikers again. So you're going to have to change the way you play. Like you said before, the plan for Saturday is out the window now. Because Everton might have been looking at it and going, right, we're going to set up with Anthony Gordon, we're going to set up with Dwight McNeil, say. Well, now maybe he has to start thinking of playing Damari Gray, so he's got that pace to go round the back. Do you know what I mean? And you're starting to alter other parts of your team because of one player, where really you should have someone who can just go straight into the team. And, that to me is still baffling, because listen to you then saying about replacing Richarlison. A lot of people would be saying, why wasn't Richarlison the first person to be replaced? Why wasn't he the first? Why wasn't that the first thing Everton did once they got the money or got Richarlison? Why didn't he already have someone lined up who mightn't have been Richarlison class, by the way, mightn't have been anywhere near him, because he wouldn't be. Because I've seen someone on Twitter go, we still haven't replaced Lukaku. How do you replace Lukaku? Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to go back down the well and come back up again and hope that the play you bring in gets better and better and better. But a lot of people will be asking that question. Why did we not go out and buy another striker? Because it just seems completely silly. And if Everton are without, because the worst thing about this is that those next couple of months are just rammed with games. August is rammed with games.
Normally before you 3 games in it, and it's a break.
And then international
There's
break.
An international break in the window. It's 6 now. It's 6 games, including a cup game.
Yeah.
Before the window shuts. Now, if Chelsea turn around and go, we're keeping Brozier until we get one, and we're not going to make a decision until August the 30th. Everton have played 6 games or it will have August the 30th, the 6th game of in this month that we play. Then there's a Merseyside derby 3 days later, 4 days later. So it is. I've got some sympathy from Kevin Thelwell's recruitment thing, because if you only got a little pot of money, you go and we're trying to spin these plates, and Garner's obviously, they've decided Garner is someone who can come in and do a job while they think of it. I'm seeing Onana to West Ham today, and it's like West Ham struggled to stay up 2.5 years ago, and totally above us now because they've got the money they can spend, but we're still in a situation where we're trying to juggle things, and that's because of what went before, of course it is. So we have to try to go with what we've got, but it is so frustrating, because even for me, even with Brozier, we needed another one, because as far as I'm concerned, Rondon's not a viable option. He's not. You should have 3 forwards, and all 3 should be able to play. Now, okay, I'm not saying you should have them all the same quality as Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because we haven't got the money right now to do that, or we certainly haven't got the constraints are too strong on us to be able to do that. But you can't have Dominic Calvert-Lewin and the next forward is Rondon. The drop off is huge. It's huge. Just in terms of movement, it's huge. In terms of winning headers, it's huge. Alright, he can hold the ball up well, but he's 10 or 15 minute man, we know that. So you almost should have been trying to push him out the door this summer. Okay, it's easier said than done, of course it is, and he might want to go, and there's all of that. But Everton, when you're gambling on someone who's just had a terrible season through injuries, you're gambling on him not picking another injury up. It's risky, to say the least. It's risky.
Well, you're doing what we've done literally for the last 3 seasons, which is, gambling. We're right on the knife's edge. And we've had this for the last 3 seasons. And the irony is, when we did bring a striker in, in January under Carlo Ancelotti, we never used him. We just played with Richarlison instead of Dom when Dom did get injured. And then, you're playing a very dangerous game with a team that doesn't score a lot of goals, and you haven't got much cover. And it's like, look how many centre backs we've got, and it's like got loads of centre backs but no centre forwards. It's like that's the most important place on the pitch. It's the fella who puts the ball in the back of the net. You can play all this box football if you you can, but if you haven't got someone at the end of it to just knock it in, then you're in trouble. And I just think Everton are culpable again. To me, that position is just a position you need to have adequate players, whether they've got experience, whether they're young up and coming players, whether they've come through the championship, whatever. You've got to have backup, and again we've left ourselves in that position where. And the thing about Everton is, you only have to be at Everton for 5 minutes to know the worst case scenario always happens. It always happens. And I think we've we're gonna have to really, really get a move on now with recruitment, and whether we have to bring in someone who's a little bit more experienced, who may or go for someone that maybe we hadn't looked at, maybe go back for someone like Emmanuel Dennis or someone like that. I think we have to fill that gap because there's no point doing what we did last season where we all go, it'll all be fine when Dom comes back. Well, Dom never came back.
No.
Came back for the last 3 games, and luckily he did get the goal.
But you're looking, if it's, we've seen reports today, it's 3 months, whatever. So there's the World Cup. So you're talking Boxing Day before he's back, aren't you?
Mental, and also mentally, to miss if he misses 2-3 months, let's say he is, if it's worst case scenario, then and he misses a World Cup, mentally that's going to shatter him. And he spoke at the end of the season about the issues. Okay, he might be back for November.
Yeah, he might be back for the early part. Yeah,
if it's the worst case scenario,
and it is early August, it's still a first week in August.
Yeah.
So he could be back. He could be back end of October.
Yeah.
If everything's good, which is good, which is really good. But we've got a lot of games before then, haven't we?
Yeah.
And listen, I still think, funnily enough, we can still get a result on Saturday. The crowd and with Delhi up there, and we'd have to be tight anyway. And it's about we weren't going to have a million chances anyway. So it's about taking what we get, and the way you look at it, Delhi can score goals. That's the way it is. But it's like you've just said. There's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of other things that in terms of gameplay and stuff like that. So, Football Matter says Everton laughed off 40 million from Newcastle. Have never bid for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, by the way. Made an inquiry, and Everton were right to laugh off 40 million because they knew they were going to sell Richarlison. So, it's easy when he's injured to go, we should have sold him. Well, that we were never going to sell both of them this summer, and that's just a fact, because now we've been in the situation we're still in, haven't we? So, Joel says still being assessed 3 months is just a route. Yeah, I've seen it, Joel. It'll fingers crossed it's less than that anyway. I don't think it's gonna be a quick return, but 3 months might be like proper worst case scenario. Simon says no one wants it. Well, look, that's it. I mean, if Everton would have had a £60 million bid, they may well have sold him in June and kept Richarlison. Who knows? He's got 3 years left on his deal, the hottest spare. He's 25, so Bobby C says, without the access to Usmanov's backing, do you think Mashiri now regrets buying Everton and now can't wait for Bramley Murdoch to be completed so that he can sell up and let some poor other sucker be lumbered with the legacy of the board's mismanagement even? Never know, would you? Never know whether he regrets. Up to him, isn't it? To get more investments in or to bring different people in. As far as I'm concerned, he's sat on his hands as well. He's just as culpable because he should have made changes when he had the opportunity to. Lou says Jordan Larson's available on a free, might be worth a look, but I'd still want someone like Brozier. Well, that's who they're looking at, but whether or not they get it, I don't know. Elizabeth says, makes my blood boil that we're now heading into the first game of a massive season for us without a striker. Ranking competence on the part of the club. Will they never learn? Anthony says, Pedder wouldn't trust this lot as far as I could throw them. Patrick says, key will have to be not to panic in terms of getting a completely different forward in. Has to be some form of similarity or the system will be entirely different. On the other hand, some people are acting like a striker hasn't been targeted. The club have failed to do so, and that's frankly pathetic, but we all know the reasons and the caveats why. Now they have to weigh up whether they have to spend the rest of the current budget on a striker, assuming a large down payment to be required, rather than waiting on a player at the end of the window. In normal circumstances you could push it, but that's 5 league games, 15 points to play for. That's the thing, Patrick, isn't it? It's that normally we're talking 3 games and you go, well, you're not writing them off, but you go, well, we've got 2 home games and then the first 3 games. Can we get points there? But this time it's different. 5 league games and a Carabao Cup game. And whether we like it or not, Carabao Cup progression, even if it's to the quarter-finals, money every round. We need as much money as we can. So it's a difficult one that they're in now, because they have got to make that decision. And it's, do we abandon what we were doing, or can we find more room in the budget? We need someone to go out. Where are the takers? It's, we've said it before, Andre Gomez. Where are the takers for Andre Gomez? Is he going to be the last day of the window before he goes out? Can Everton gamble and go, well, all right, we're going to spend this little bit of money here and spend this little bit of money there on the hope that we move 2 or 3 out? I'm not sure whether whether they would. They may have to. They may have to look and go, you know what, it's worth the gamble. And if the worst comes to the worst, we'll sell X, Y or Z before the 30th of June next season. Whether that's Anthony Gordon or whether that's Dominic Calvert-Lewin or whoever. I'm not saying this is what's happening. I'm just saying this might be some of the conversations the club have got to have now and put themselves in the same position as what they've been. Because there's no doubt they're trying to turn the ship back the other way. We've seen that. We spent $1.5 million last summer.
No doubt.
January was Luca Dean covered the deals. This summer, Richarlison's money's gone there. We've down payments of something like $4.75 million for Dwight McNeil for his first payment. It's nothing, nothing on Tarkovsky, Vinagre. It's just wages. So already in the last 2 summers, we spent $5 million or £6 million quid. Arsenal spend that in every half an hour.
On speakers?
To play
music.
You'll Never Walk Alone, yeah. So, it is what it is, but you can't, because you're trying to recover the damage over here, you can't let more damage come in here, and that's what the gambling are. I mean, what would you do? Would you, and we don't know the finances, so we can't say for sure, but would you risk a gamble by saying, if this doesn't pay off, we will? And we saw how that happened.
I think you've got to be. I think Everton, what they've got to do now is got to go, right, if Brozier is the one they want, we'll keep working on it, but I think they've got to get one in. But I think they've got to get one in. And it might be someone that people don't like. It might be a Batakai. It might be someone of that.
I didn't want him the other day.
That's what I'm saying. He might have to now, because ultimately, right, the gamble is, how many goals are you going to score?
I mean, he wouldn't be able to play Saturday anyway.
No, but what I'm saying is, goals keep you in the Premier League.
Of course they do.
Or get you up the Premier League. If Everton went to Chelsea, let's say, and said, right, he's in his last year of his contract, isn't he? If Everton were to say, I don't know, we can give you X amount up front, they might just go, sound. We just want him off our books. Do you know what I mean? We can't I don't think we can loan him, can we? So, someone like that, I'm not saying him directly, but someone like that, I think we're going to have to take a gamble on, because what else can we do? We can't do that thing like we did last season. It'll be all right. I mean, we had a situation last season where we had Dom injured, and then we had Richarlison out for a month, and Richarlison never really come back till January properly. Not properly.
No, he was way off it. And don't forget, he got injured again.
That's what I'm saying. He never really come back properly. So So we really, we look what happened in that space of time. We won one game of football. We've got to really think about this. The good thing is we have got time. We've got 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Got 4 weeks Friday.
Yeah.
To bring someone in. But I think we have to start looking and going, you know what, for pure numbers, for the way we play, even if this fella isn't a someone you go, he'll score loads of goals. I think you have to have someone who can help play the way Frank Lampard wants to play, because otherwise, you're looking around and going, who's going to score these goals for us, by the way? Because
you can nick, like Saturday, right? Like I'm saying with Saturday, I still think we've got a chance. They're a good side, but they're in a little bit of turmoil themselves right now. They're not settled. Might be a good time to play them. And sometimes those games are settled by a corner or something that breaks. I mean, last year it was settled by Richarlison pressing the ball, and it was once. I know Damari Gray should have made it 2-0 later on. Yeah. And we got away with it. So it's not saying Everton can't win Saturday, because we can, but then you go to Leeds then going, do we just get one chance at Leeds? You can't do it.
The thing about it is, though, and
the
thing about it is here as well, is that obviously Dom is important to the way Lampard wants to play. Clearly, he's a target man. He can throw balls into the box, and he's someone that you look and go, you can build off him if you need to. Yeah. Like Dele isn't. So,
but Dele might link. We might actually play better with Dele.
I agree with that. Agree with that.
But he won't score as many goals.
But then, hang on, what happens after an hour if Dele's blown out of his arse?
Yeah.
You've got to have players coming on the bench. And I think that's where people are looking at and going, well, why have we let Sims go out on loan? He could be that fella. And I appreciate that.
He could have been a sub. Couldn't he?
They clearly think that we're going to get others in. And I just think that we have to look at this practically and pragmatically and think we're going to have to go out and just get somebody. Big G.
A big G. As said, if you think that a mid-table club like Palace have Mateta, Benteke, Edouard and Zaha as striker options, shows how far. And then they've got Ayew and they've got Olise. That's Crystal Palace.
Villa have got Ollie Watkins, they've got
Danny Ings,
they've got
even Bailey can play through the middle,
and they've got the young lads as well.
Keenan Davis as well.
So they've
got 4. Leicester have got Vardy, they've got
Iheanacho,
and they've got Thingy as well. The kid Patson Daka. 3, and they've got George Hurst. Well, they've got 3 anyway. You can go. We've got 1 and a half with Rondon, if you call him a half. He's not even there, and we're not a team that has got loads. It's not like we go, well, our midfielders get 8 each or 9 each, and our wingers will get 10. We're a team that doesn't score enough goals, so it is difficult. I don't know what they're gonna do, but they're gonna have to do something quickly. Glenn says we can't replace Richie quickly. If you hire a handyman, you can't get good, fast and cheap. You have to pick 2 out of 3. We want good and cheap, no money. We have to wait till No, I appreciate that, Glenn. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to spread the money. And obviously Brozier's one they like, and they know Chelsea probably won't make a decision on it until towards the end of the window.
But what I'm saying is that I'm not.
But right now we're in a bit of a.
What I'm saying is, though, it's not a case of replacing Richarlison. You're not going to replace Richarlison. I think what certainly I think we possibly should have done, and it's easy to say that now in hindsight, but certainly what I would do now is go and find a player that you know can play in the Premier League, can play up front, can run the channels, and can get you maybe 8 to 10 goals a season. Someone who can go in there and be, and there are out there. I mean, you just mentioned those players who play for Palace there. None of them are like consistent goal scorers. But what they do is they do a job for the team to allow other people to come in and help the way they play. And that's what I'm saying. It's not, you're not going to necessarily replace the player you sold in Richarlison, but you need to get a little bit of that back. Now they might go, well, we've brought Dwight McNeil in and he'll help partly with picking the ball up in midfield and stuff like that, but he's not going to score the goal. He's got no track record of scoring those goals. No. You need someone who's busy, someone who's going to occupy, the centre backs. And I think Everton have got to step up and look for that player now, because if you're down to Dele and Rondon for any kind of time, then that's worrying, isn't it? That is worrying.
It is. Morelos has been mentioned a few times at Rangers in the last year of his contract. Don't know. No one else has took him after. You know, he's scored. He had a couple of great seasons at Rangers, didn't he? But hasn't been as good of late. Tyler says, lads, give us some good news. Surely the fact we're still exploring Broja, or Broja as they like to call him, as an option would indicate neither he nor Chelsea are completely against the move. Do you think, in light of recent events, we'll look to ramp up our efforts? If not, can you see us moving for a different number 9? Well, quite clearly they want him. The stories in the press every few days as well. Chelsea haven't got in what they're going to get in. They're going to finish with another 3 signings, aren't they? Chelsea aren't done for the window by any stretch. And maybe when they get in who they're going for, they'll make that decision on him. I just don't see Chelsea playing him. I just really don't. I just look and think that they're not going to play him. They're talking about not playing Timo Werner. There's no chance.
He's going back to Leipzig.
There's no chance. But see, I'd have him, even though he misses a half full. He's still better than what we've got in terms of pace-wise. But we're never getting him. He's on big wages.
What about Emmanuel Dennis?
Yeah, well, I mean, 20 million they want, don't they? Played very well apparently on Monday night for Watford. I don't think he can play through the middle. He's got no track record other than last season of hitting double figures, but he does work hard, and he did score 10 goals in the Premier League last season. Like I said the other night, I believe he was very good. Why not? Why not? Add him and see what.
Because I think it's going to have to be someone like that.
Yeah, we're not unless we go. The only other thing is going and gambling. So going for like Terry Moffey in France, someone like that. Or
Cavani, out of contract.
Coming back, is he Cavani? But going and gambling on a younger player and hoping that it works. I don't know, someone's met, and he's not young but 26, Moussa Dembele, in the last year of his contract. He's done a job before, he's gone along, he's big physical striker. He's someone I thought Everton could have had in the past, maybe. They're going to have to look what's around. And like you say, they're probably not going to do anything this week, but they do have to be looking and going, we can't, we have got games coming up. If they get someone like that, does that mean Broja doesn't? See, Emmanuel Dennis is interesting because you may well be able to throw him through the middle for a little bit because he works hard and he's quite quick. He's not physically strong in terms of, back to goal type play, but then we played with Richarlison. He wasn't back to goal anyway.
Well, we've been playing with Dele.
And Dele. Ironically, I fancy Dele to hold it up more than Richarlison or Dennis. But what Dennis then could do is obviously slot into a front 3, even if you got Broja. But I don't know.
Do you maybe think we wait till Saturday, see how Dele gets on, and then make not a judgment on whether we bring one in and don't bring one on, because I think we have to bring one. Just then look at like the kind of player you bring in. Maybe someone, because another one like someone like Corney. No,
he's going to West Ham, isn't he?
Well, he is, but what I'm saying is, if Everton were desperate and could go in there and get a deal done, do you think he could sort of play in a more central striker role? No. Because
he's a wide player for me. West Ham are talking about playing him left back.
Fair enough.
So to add some goals from there because he's pacey, but he couldn't go through the middle. I think what Everton will end up doing is just waiting on Broja, and that might take us to the last week of the window, and having to just see it'll be Rondon and Dele, and then your front 3 might be, one game the front 3 might be Damari, Gray, Anthony Gordon, and Dwight McNeil. Who knows? I have no idea what Frank is thinking, but should he deviate from what they've agreed on? So if it's like we can get Broja, but Chelsea aren't going to let him go until the last week in August, what do we do?
I get that, but I
probably can't bring in. We bring another?
I think we need another though. I love.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe someone like Dennis then.
That's what I'm saying.
He can do 2 jobs.
That's what I'm saying. I look at the situation and I think we can't have this situation again. We can't.
No.
I think we need to learn from this and go. There's no way you can put any kind of trust in Dominic Calvert-Lewin anymore. You just can't. You know, whether it's a different injury or what,
So if he comes back and scores goals, would you sell him then at the first opportunity?
Not the first opportunity, but if you have bought Brojan and you've invested in him and you think he can take over from,
he's only going to be a loan.
I'm under absolutely zero illusion that Dominic Calvert-Lewin isn't going to be sold now. He's going next summer, as far as I'm concerned. He's 100% going next summer. So you invest in the player you think's going to replace him now. You get him up to speed, and then I think we have to have another one as well. I think we've got to have another one. You've just mentioned, the clubs you've mentioned there, and the amount of backups they have.
Yeah. Especially now with 9 subs and with 5 that can come on.
This can't go on where we don't have a centre forward on the bench who can come on.
You should have 2.
Exactly.
Every week you should have 2 because you might need to say you want to go 2 up front and one of them's blowing. It is mad. Paul says not surprises me with this board. Gare says this was the problem with selling the Charlison. We needed to buy 2 players to replace him. One to play out wide and get goals from there, and one to back up Dom. In trademarks Everton style, we've bought neither of those players. We've spent on the attack. Now will surely impact on what we do in terms of midfielders. The other thing as well, of course, is obviously they put money down for Garner. Is that going to impact what they do right now? Quite possibly, because if you've got a little pot of money and then the next minute you're having to do something because you're having
maybe
to
it might
money.
hasten us to try and sell a Holgate or someone
well,
like
that. Well, that's it. But again, we need to circulate that these players were willing to take money for them and see if anyone bites. It's all very well West Ham making tentative inquiries, but where's the money? You're going to spend it on someone else.
Yeah, but maybe if a deal was put forward and it was a deal that would allow us to do a deal ourselves,
absolutely.
it mightn't be what exactly we want, but if it allows us to do what we can do, where we put at again. This is what happens when you're living on the edge.
You know what's so frustrating, and everyone knows this, but we've got an owner who would quite happily put 100 million in this summer, quite happily, and this is what's annoying about. I understand why it's there, but it's so annoying because it's like having that pot of money that you can't touch it. It's there and you're going, we need this though and we can spend that, and it's because we're so up against it with the Premier League. Do we say to them, you're risking us staying in this league because have an agreement in place?
They're not going to care.
No, but have an agreement in place like we did with the Charlison. Say by the 30th of June we will have sold.
No, and that's not even an agreement. That's something that can happen. At the end of the day, if Everton sells someone by the end of the day, then. But of course, you might get to the end of that financial window, and the person you want to sell mightn't be fit, or mightn't be any takers for them, or you might have that case where everyone knows that you have to sell a place. So it's like, no, you're all right, lads. We'll give you 30 for them or whatever. That's your problem.
Well, that's what we were up with the Charles.
That's your problem, isn't it? So,
but then that's another day to fight, isn't it? You can fight your case then, can't you?
Yeah. Matt Law's saying, I'm 99% sure Billy Gilmore will leave on loan again at some point. If you're asking me today where he would go, it would be Everton. Can he play up front, lads? But yeah. See, little deals like that, whether we like them or not, and the club might have been like, we'll just get him in on loan. They'll have to be knocked on the head.
Possibly, yeah.
Because the priority.
Unless it's a deal that suits everybody, they might look and go, he's just a filler for the squad. You know what I mean? Frank Lampard. I mean, that kind of goes it. If you've read, I don't know whether you've read the Athletic article today that Paddy and Greg have done about what, and obviously they've spoke to people at the club. What it says was he wants Garner and he wants a powerful box-to-box midfield play. Billy Gilmore's not a power. He's nice on the ball and he'll get it and recycle. He's not a powerful box-to-box midfielder, so that rules him out.
Ned's more powerful.
They also said they want Brozier, and they talked about another striker as well. They're saying 3 or 4 more.
Oh yeah, listen. We
need to get people out.
We're in bargain basement.
I can tell you right now that if Everton don't get anyone out, they'll struggle to get 2 more in. So if they want the 4 he wants, we're going to have to lose some. Now hopefully that'll come with someone will come and bite on Andre Gomez. Hopefully. Well, hopefully they will. Even Alan, I really like Alan, I do. But even him, with his wages,
well, it's situation now.
Situation
now. If obviously if Garner comes in, then with the situation now, it's needs must.
Of course,
needs must.
I actually believe he'll go to a 3 in midfield, and it'll be Garner, Iwobi, and Decore. That's what I think his midfield 3 will be. Because them two run all day long, and you'll have someone who mops up behind them. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. There's better midfields, of course there is, but you're talking energy and getting around the pitch, then they can go and do that, can't they?
Aye.
That's interesting. Right, I'll race through these. Everton Viking says, Dom's injury doesn't stop us signing Garner, because for me a ball-winning midfielder who's good on the ball is just as important for us as bringing in a forward. Lou says, I wonder how much Sociedad would want for Isaac. Way too much. The player, Everton Viking goes on to say, the players out there we can take a risk on. We have to rely on selling players next season, because we can't not sign a midfielder and a forward now. Take the risk and hope the sponsorships and sales come in. We know we have the key money as well. Just get Moise Keane back. Seeing that one?
Yeah.
Get him back and just say, lad, come back, have another go. Third time lucky.
Soz lad.
Matt says it's a very difficult situation and we can't panic and add players that become the next Tosin and Gomez. I do get that as well.
No, I'm certainly not. I'm certainly not suggesting those kind of players either.
Says maybe we take our medicine, get to next summer above the bottom 3 and take time to plan for young, hungry players. It's just the goals, Matt, for me. You can patch up other areas, but it's the goals, isn't it? Tom says, don't want this replacement coming in last day of the window, but agree 2 need to come in. Zerki from Bayern, 21, 6'4". They've looked at Josh Zerki, haven't they, before? But does need to develop. Nice link player, though. Idea, Delhi starts as a false 9. Gordon, McNeil and Gray be the 2 wide forwards going in behind. Then Zerki fits a similar role. Zirkzee, rather. Keep missing the Z off. Fits a similar role. Good option from the bench and to develop. Yeah, he's a big lad, isn't he? He's good in the air. He might be one if they are prepared to let him go. There was talk he was coming last season, wasn't there? So, Everton Viking says Terran Moffey amongst other forwards wouldn't cost over 20. No, wouldn't cost over 20. But again, down payments and stuff like that. But it's what they do. Garner's a must sign, definitely. Kevin says if we're looking for frees and just paying wages, would Belotti not fit in as a striker? That's better than Rondon. It's pace for me with Belotti. The lad has obviously scored a lot of goals for Torino. Scores a lot of penalties.
I've just found the player we should be signing.
Go on. It's John Utaka. What a player. What's Nias doing?
John Utaka.
Surely we can get Nias back for the season. Or for 6 months. On loan.
I'd rather have John Utaka. He's 40, I'd rather have him.
Yakubu, come on, come out. He must only be 30.
What a player, John Utaka.
On the
Master League.
On Master League.
Get him, then get Roberto Carlos playing up front.
See, you done that when you had no strikers on Master League. With pace.
Dead easy money.
Lions, he says, afternoon lads, fellow Blues starting to get pissed off now with the incompetence of the board. Why are those idiots sapping the lifeblood out of our club? Not blaming Frank or Kevin, but Richarlison's money should have been spent immediately on a replacement. Can't wait to see Garner back in a blue shirt, though. Lou says, not even joking, I'd take Nias back if he was still 26. Greg says opinions on Patrick Schick. If we could find the money, could we get him? He'd be too expensive, I think. He's another one he's been linked with Everton loads, Greg, hasn't he? Tom says, would we take Dzeko on loan? Wages would be high, very short term, but he'd score goals. I would, because he'd score goals, and he's huge. And then once Dom is fit, he's a good option off the bench. But I still think there's others. But that's not a bad shout, to be fair, Tom. Derek says this is a bit like the left-back situation a couple of seasons ago. You can throw a right-back in as well. Everyone knows we need another striker, but it doesn't seem to be a priority. It's been pointed out many times that there are players out there that can do the job. I sometimes wonder what the backroom staff do. Patrick says also, as Baz says, there wasn't even contact between Newcastle and Everton over Dom. It was all done over a middleman agency, and it was just an inquiry. Go on.
Lewis Graben.
No, that was Ned's. Personally, I thought there was a chance that they might come in for him late in the window if they couldn't get their other targets. But I doubt Everton would have sold both of them.
Andy Carroll's available on a free.
No. Chris says, I swear someone's treating Everton as a science experiment. How much can you put fans through? Yeah, it's definitely a social experiment.
Yeah,
Defo. Marcus says, have you heard Branthwaite is injured? Noticed he's not made the squad for PSV's last 2 games. I've not heard anything on it, to be honest, mate. No clue. Richie says, is the Ghana deal done? Not as yet, Rich. Paul says, I wouldn't spend more than 2 million on Ghana. And Georgie says, lucky the World Cup is in November, December for Dom. It's lucky for us, really, isn't it? Because if he isn't back before then, at least he can get training by then. Ian says Jacko is a shout. Corin says, can we get Duncan Ferguson back? Harry Wiseman's come up with it. Literally come up with it.
Go on.
Paul Stratton in for Dom. Played one, scored one.
Yeah.
Lad came on as a sub, slotted, got a better goal to game ratio than Dom, than Richie for Everton. Probably the most strikers for Everton, really. So Stratton, let's do it.
He'd have to put his shorts on the right way, though.
He would. Get rid of the camel toe, get the shorts on. Everton Clip says Wayne Rooney on a free. Daily Freckle says Pookie. And Gareth Jones says Diaz from Blackburn.
They'd still want a lot of money for him.
I imagine, yeah. I imagine. Joe says Calvert-Lewin will never be fit for a full season. His body is gone. Get him out for anything over 25 million. And Tim O'Brien, Timo, says just put Garner up front. I know. Right, that's us done. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for all the thumbs up. Enjoy your day. It is a bit depressing, but keep the faith and hope that Everton gets some more business done, because we need it, and we need it as soon as possible, really. Don't we? We'll be back at 5 o'clock. Oh, it's Wednesday, isn't it? We'll be back on YouTube at 5 as well. So see you all later. Bye.